on the Porphyry house system. I did do a video quite a while back describing to you and illustrating why I use this house system in my astrology work. However, today I'd like to update that video and also illustrate to you more in depth, and yet at the same time a lot quicker or shorter in terms of the video size, what that is about and why I subscribe to it. Okay? So let's have a look at that quickly. Just move over to the next part. So this is what you've got in front of you right now. And I was really inspired the other day, or not actually the other day, I was inspired yesterday. And to really anchor in some of the deeper meanings as to why I use this house system and why I believe in it. Okay. Now, before I go ahead and jump into everything that I'm about to share with you, this is my personal perspective. This is what I believe to be truth and what I believe to be something that is in alignment with what I call natural law, all right, i.e. nature and such, and the cycles that are inherent in there. And so that's what I use really in terms of understanding it. So the first picture that I would like everybody's attention to be drawn to is this. This comes from the Large Hadron Collider, okay? They drew up a diagram to illustrate, to find the boson Higgs particle, known as the God particle, okay? And what they did was they created within this diagram over here all the elements that were going to be smashed together, all the particles that were going to smash together to create the understanding that is this God particle. Like, what is in the center of this? What is this place? Now, what's really fascinating about this project that is CERN, that is the Large Hadron Collider, is that they're trying to find in the external world the inner nature, the God that exists within, right? So within inside of ourselves, we are the universe, right? We make that connection. And now what we're doing from a scientific perspective is accessing this knowledge existentially. We're trying to figure it out there in the existential world. And yet our consciousness is placed existentially versus inwardly, because it's deep within ourselves that we find the space that we're seeking, right? Make an interesting connection. So what I wanted to do was then say, okay, well, this is interesting because the center of the birth chart is the vibration that you are. This is you. You're right in the middle of it. You are the center. You are the solar sun. So what happens here is that if you now take your consciousness and place it in the middle over there, and now take your consciousness again and place it in the middle over there, take your consciousness and place it in the middle there, and place it there, and place it there, and finally place it there, there's something incredibly common. The source of everything manifests from that. Everything originates from that point. And yet, paradoxically, everything returns back to that point. So, from the point of view of understanding a Porphyry house system, what I'm doing is I'm making the connection with us being the center, okay? Us being the cosmos, us being the vortex of the solar sun, okay? And I didn't actually introduce it this way, so maybe this will be helpful for everybody now going, what are you going on about? And that is that, firstly, the house system Porphyry is broken up into 4 angles, okay, 4 quadrants. You have the first quadrant here, so from Aries to Cancer. You have then the second quadrant from Cancer to Virgo, or should I say Libra, and then from Libra to Capricorn and Capricorn to Pisces. So that's the first step in this Porphyry house system. That's how it gets broken down. And then within the circle, within the actual house system itself, it has 3 symbols, 3 signs. So in this case, Aries, Taurus, and Gemini. And then it breaks it, and then it goes, okay, then there's another 3, and then there's a cardinal sign, etc. So it follows this rhythmic cycle of house system, not equilateral or in different angles, etc. It's going 3 signs, whatever they might be, and then a cardinal, like a cardinal line, right? So 3 signs and then a cardinal line. So it's broken up into 3 segments of 4, all right? Now, in the 13-sign astrology, there's an extra element to this process in sidereal, Now, again, as I've said to you before, as long as you are getting to the same point, who cares? Because beyond the zodiac is your infinite beingness. You're actually only using the zodiac to access your more personal story. But your consciousness and cosmos and the connection to that is beyond it. So therefore, the zodiac is just a limitation relative to what you perceive yourself to be. And that's why I say it's like, it doesn't matter as long as you're using whatever template to transcend yourself with. Anyway, so this is the actual model that they use to understand and build the Large Hadron Collider through. And I want to show you guys something. 4 cardinal points broken up into 3, just as it is over there, okay, with the center being your vibration. Now, what I want to do again is take this middle piece here and superimpose that onto there, and notice that every single time your light like every time you vibrate, every time you express, every time you be yourself, just like I'm doing right now. I'm expressing myself. I'm letting the Fibonacci sequence and the fire express myself, which is this picture over here. As it goes from the center, it spirals out. And as the spiraling out interacts with planets, it then naturally creates a reflection of light, which is then your karma. This is how you see yourself. That's why, for me, I can have, Pluto conjunct Mercury. And as soon as I express myself, what will naturally happen as the vibration of light moves outward from me, it will then hit that archetypal part of my consciousness that's not literally there. And it will reflect back to me in the outside world how I express myself. This is why we live in a holographic universe. So what I want to show you is that this connection between the God particle, or the trying to access the God particle, and the scientists there at CERN, the model that they've actually used to access it is the first circle, which is there. Now I want everybody to look at this picture not from a 2D perspective, but from a 3D point of view. Like you're actually traveling into the H. Like if I could ask you to actually move your nose closer to the screen, and as you move closer to the screen, you're actually going into that center piece there, okay? And as you move backwards, you watch how the reality starts to shift more away from you. It's like looking down a road. The road starts to go narrower and narrower. Does that make sense? So as you move through your field and your time and space, and you're going into that H, what you're naturally going to experience is these larger cycles over here manifest, right? So that's into the distance. And that is closer to you, and this is the closest part of yourself, if you can understand it. It even visually becomes that way. So there's these 4 seasons, right? And as above, so below. So as above, so below, and so below as above. So as within, so without. The same thing here. Aries is polarized by Libra. So inside Libra is Aries, and inside Aries is Libra. That's why Aries will always be aggression or flight. It's not always going to be the same. The archetype of Scorpio is inherent in Taurus, and Taurus inherent in Scorpio. This is why when I teach about the natural zodiac, I'm teaching about wholeness. This is a holistic approach. Everything is connected. And it's the same thing here. You've got these circled. This is the most connected part. This is now the time frame of 4 divided into 4, as it were, 4 seasons. And then those 4 seasons, or 4 cardinal points initiating change, will reflect 3 different aspects. So you've got fire, water, earth, right? In that sense. Now, so you got fire, in this case, earth, air, pardon me. So I'll do it again. So you got fire, okay, earth, water, air, and water. And that's the 4 points, okay, 4 elements. But then inside those points, you have the cardinal sign, which is Aries, the fixed sign, which is Taurus, and the mutability, which is Gemini. Fire initiation, fixity to keep the strength, and then mutability to expand. And mutation, what happens when something mutates? It turns into a different form. So even if you look at nature here, you can see that in order for this tree to have grown, it would have needed the cardinal energy of fire, of phi, right? The phi ratio there, beautifully explained. So that fire breaks through the ground. That's why you need a lot of courage to make a big jump or a leap or a new direction. Aries, it's so full of inertia. And it fires up, and then eventually it needs the fixity of the Taurus archetype, of the Aquarius archetype, of the Leo and Scorpio archetype to maintain structure until it reaches a point where it says, okay, guys, we've got to expand. And this is the mutable signs, right? And they're all reflecting the 4 cardinal points, which is the 4 seasons. And time is those 4 seasons. Do you see how this works? And so, again, the Porphyry house system is a house system that is designed, not designed, but created in alignment with the natural state of our consciousness and how it operates. It's the template. So, again, you don't have to subscribe to this because, again, at the end of the day, it's about observation and correlation. But for me, when I'm observing the Porphyry house system in astrology, I'm taking the templates of how consciousness is operating through your own human design and applying the science, the 4 seasons and the 3 aspects, which I've proven to you. Look there, 4 seasons. And then in order for, like a seed, imagine if a seed had like mutable energy. It would never break through the hard ground. But if it takes a fire energy like Aries that breaks through and rams into something, it's going to be like, yeah, I've got all the energy, and it bursts through like a spring water. And eventually it goes, okay, well, I've got all that energy, I've dissipated, now I need something fixed. So therefore, the trunk, fixed signs. And then expansion occurs. That's what Gemini is learning, Sagittarius is learning, Virgo is learning, Pisces is expansion and learning. Does this make sense? So these 4 cardinal points, 3 signs in them, represented in nature, as above, so below. And the actual, like, look at the weather systems reflected through the Fibonacci sequence. So everything is a spiral. So therefore, God, the center point, is the manifestation. Everything is source. Now, if you look at Raising Vibrations logo, you can actually see the Vesica Pisces manifesting the trine, the Trinity. And it's really important to honor the Trinity, at least from past, present, and future, or the nature of how things operate. You have one entity, which can be perceived as myself. You have the other entity, which is you watching this video. And our interaction with each other creates the experience that you're having right now. This is the Christed state consciousness, or the merging of the 3. So the same thing happens. The reason why I have this symbolism is because of the law of 3, the Trinity. Again, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, right? Or it can be perceived as masculine energy, feminine energy, and you. And that creates wisdom, right? So the feminine energy can be, or the masculine energy, Aries and Gemini, right? That's the trines there. And the feminine energy is Taurus and Cancer, or should I say Aries, Gemini, Leo, Libra, and Aquarius and Sagittarius are all masculine consciousness. It's expansion. It's going outward. Yin, yang energy. And then Taurus, Cancer, Virgo, Scorpio, Capricorn, and Pisces, feminine archetype, receptivity, right? We're going out and we're slowing down. We're going out and we're slowing down. You can see the feminine and masculine archetype here, right? And whenever the seasons change, so between Aries and Libra, there's total balance. There's equilibrium, always. So at the moment in Sweden, it's getting into winter, but in Australia, it's summer, and we're moving into that transition. But on the summer and winter, pardon me, when was it? You've got the summer, is it the equinoxes, if I'm not mistaken, or the solstices? Equinox or solstice, one of the two. Either way, the 21st of March and the 21st of September is where the equilibrium point occurs, right? And it's the same thing occurs over here. So within the birth chart, within nature, within the laws of the universe in itself, this Porphyry house system is intrinsically attached to how our consciousness is operating. So when you're drawing a birth chart and using Porphyry, you're naturally getting a reflection of how that consciousness is being operated through, how it's filtering itself through, how it's working. All right, guys, I really hope that you enjoyed that, and it allowed you to get some insight into my own consciousness and how I see stuff. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and share this information with anybody that you feel is going to be benefiting from this. Other than that, I hope that you have a fantastic day, and I will speak to you again. Take care. Bye-bye.